Okay. Okay, we're going to call to order the Monday, June 26, 2023 Board of Adjustment meeting. And to start off, we're going to go with a roll call.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Trey Ferguson. Is that him?
No.
Tim Tabet.
Here?
Eric Jones.
Here.
Sandra Gray.
Here.
Eric Thompson.
Here.
Barbara Sampson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Has everybody had time to look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for any discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our new business. And we're going to discuss the consideration of a special use permit for an educational use located at 2105 Country Club Road. The property is further identified as Craven County parcel identification number 8-039-4001. Seth, do you have anything to?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, the applicant here is Raven Simmons. The property is located at 2105 Country Club Road. Existing zoning of the property is R10. And the request is for an educational use code 5.310 for a child drop-in, or drop-in daycare, child care. The lot size is 0.31 acres, and it's currently a vacant church on the property. You can see the aerial photograph of the property here on Country Club Road. As we stated before, the zoning is R10. You can see from the table of permitted uses, section 15146, that use code 5.310, educational use located in a building with a gross floor area not to exceed 3,500 square feet, is a special use in the R10 zoning district. We've got the site plan for you all. The property was properly noticed with adjacent property owners and posting on site. The proposed project was reviewed and approved by the city's Departmental Site Plan Review Committee on 6/01/23. Staff finds the proposed project is consistent with the plans, rules, and regulations of the city of New Bern with no further changes. I'd like to also add that in 2021, the same property received a special use permit for the same use code. In that case, it was a art gallery. So here we are 2 years later for a very similar use request. So under the staff's recommendation, according to 15146 of the land use ordinance, educational use within a building having a gross floor area not to exceed 3,500 square feet must obtain a special use permit to operate in the R10 zoning district. Staff finds that the applicant has met all the land use ordinance requirements of section 15-54 for a special use permit and has no objection to the approval of this request. I'll back up to the photograph here. Happy to take any questions from the board.
Okay. Do we have any? Are we okay? Okay. Do we have anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Mr. Chair, I do think the applicant is here, or the applicant's representative. I'm also being advised by staff that there are several other notified proponents that are here that would like to speak also. So it may be prudent to swear everybody at the same time, if you please.
Well, sounds great, yeah. So if we have both the applicant and some folks that are going to speak, whether it be for or against the application, please come forward and we can get everybody affirmed so we can continue with the discussion. So we have one additional member here. Should we go through the roll call one more time and add for presence?
No, sir, I think the record will reflect that Mr. Ferguson has arrived, and since he's a duly appointed member, he has all the privileges of everybody else.
Okay, sounds great. So with everybody together, should we ask for the applicant to come forward? And
Yes, sir. If the applicant or the applicant's representative would like to make any or offer any evidence in support of the application, this would be an appropriate time.
please state your name and residence as you get ready to start.
So my name and where I live. I said my name and what else? Oh, okay. My name is Raven Simmons, and I live on 906 Meadow Street in New Bern.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So is there anything you'd like to add to the process in addition to what Seth has already discussed on the application? Yes, so additional comments or things that we might be interested in hearing as we go through the conversation prior to the time that we ask for residents to come forward and speak either for or against?
I don't think so.
Okay. So you think the application is complete and present the way it's all listed?
Yes.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. So should we take a vote now about the,
No,
about
sir.
it being,
Next up are any notified proponents. So if there's anyone in the audience who has received a letter notifying them of this hearing and would like to speak in favor of the application, this is their opportunity to do so.
is there anybody that would like to come forward and speak in favor of the permit application? Okay. Yes, so just come forward and just state your name and residence.
This gentleman will need to be sworn. I don't think he was sworn in the first
Okay,
battery.
so we need to go back through.
How you guys doing today?
Doing great. How are you? Go ahead and state your name and your residence.
My name is Jamel Gray. I live 906 Meadow Street.
Okay, thank you.
Right next to, yes, sir.
And sir, did you receive a letter about today's hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I received a letter, and I was also informed by the application.
Hey, could you take the microphone maybe and turn it up a little? There we go.
Sorry
Perfect.
about that. I apologize.
Yeah, you're good. Thank you.
So I would basically, it's my first time obviously being here, but ever since we started this project, we've had minor setbacks, nothing major. But I feel like community-wise, I honestly feel like it's a good thing. I grew up in South Carolina. I didn't have any, other ways to have outlets, and in a manner of speaking, what she's trying to do, I believe it's more of it's a drop-off daycare, a service, but how she's trying to put it is a community where people can come, I believe from 3 to 13, and they can actually be interacting, not on a state educational level, because we're not state regulated. being a state would be an actual child care service where they have extracurricular activities. We are just a service of drop in and drop kids in and pick your kids up. But I believe, seeing her driving her purpose, I believe that she's doing something that that the community needs. And I believe, going forward, I believe she's not doing any outside services, so we're trying to keep the safety aspect of it in a very high. I believe it's just perfect. It's an open floor concept. There are no hitting doors. There are no hidden, it's just one open space concept. And, she's put a lot of effort into it, from being told maybe to being told no to, I believe right now, the picture you guys are looking at, it doesn't even look like this. The roads have been paved. The driveway entrance has been paved. We're set to put gravel down. We're set to put parking lots. We used to live in New York, and we owned a house down there, and it was subdivided, and we had the right of way for the access, the driveway access. That was probably my only no, because I know how situations like that get when you have the right of way, and then somebody, the usage, so I can understand the residential no. But as far as community-wise, I don't see there being any hazard. I don't see there being even, we're not doing a late-night vicinity. We're obviously in residential, so noise will be kept down. The windows are already, how would you put it? There's no need for blinds. Like, there's no access to see in the windows. So everything would be covered as if it was a church on Sunday, except for we would be established from Monday to Friday. And we would only be working in hours that are of actual working hours. You won't see a car there at 11 o'clock at night. You know what I'm saying? It'll be continuously just a use for the community and the kids. So I believe, some people are more vocal than others, and I never thought I'd be up here speaking, but I believe she's put in enough time and effort for somebody to at least be able to, voice and actually show concern and say, like, it's not bad. It could be used for, it could just sit there. At the end of the day, I feel like it could just sit there at the end of the day and have no purpose at all. But, when you're looking out for the service of the youth, I feel like it's just a bigger thing. And like we said, there will be no outdoor recreation. There will be no loud kids. It's brick and mortar. It's not like it's a wood frame with tin, so where the noise is kind of all over the place. So, that's what I want to say. I mean, I'm looking at the picture, and he even added a new bathroom. We've been working on that. We went in, and he's changed from the water filtration system. He's added a new bathroom on the inside. I'm pretty sure if you drive past, you can kind of look in there and see through the front door. But I honestly believe for the community-wise, and me being from, not a town, I'm from Orangeburg, so it's not a town similar to this, but it has its setbacks, to be honest. We're behind. And I believe that this is a good start to move forward. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Hey, we appreciate the positive comments.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right. And as you walk away.
I have a question, if you'll take question.
Yes, sir.
You said earlier in your remarks that the facility had no state regulations. Could you elaborate on what you meant by that?
Well, we're doing a service. So a drop-off or drop-in daycare is a service to the parents. So kids can only be there up to 4 hours a day. To where a state-regulated facility, you would have to have an actual license because you're taking kids longer than the interval. State would be basically, for short, if it was a state facility, I'd be able to keep kids all day for the next 3 months on a school scheduled manner and be able to serve them lunch and teach them actual activities. Where we're a service, so by North Carolina, we don't have to be required by the state to actually teach extracurricular activities and feed them lunch. We are just a service, that's all, you know. Think of if you drop your kids off to a trampoline park, but you can't, you know. We're able to, you go with your kids to a trampoline park, you would have to subjectively be there with your kids. We're basically the service is a trampoline park. That's what we are, but we're obviously it's a child daycare service. So we allow the parents to leave the vicinity, but the kids can only be there from 1 to 4 hours. And we cannot teach, there's no education on, there's nothing now.
So just to understand, you're saying because it's a maximum of 4 hours for drop-off child care services, that there are no state regulations for the facility?
None. They even sent her paperwork to be posted on the door that this is not a state facility. That is, I believe you have one over. If you go look at Little Cubs, which is a drop-off facility, they should have that certification that tells you it's not a state building, it's not state regulated. So it's just daycare to where an actual child care service is actual like a school. We have no curriculum. We don't have anything like that. So for me to be able to teach kids something, I'd have to actually have certification from the state, or that would be illegal. We're not teaching kids. We're not trying to feed kids. We are just a vicinity where a mom or a father, maybe you want to go to the YMCA and play basketball for 4 hours. And you feel more safer because, or say you want to play basketball for 4 hours, and from going to Trentwood to New Bern YMCA, you pass us. You can drop your kid off there as a service. You know what I'm saying? It's just a registration fee, and then you can just drop them off. So you can drop them off Monday, Tuesday, you can drop them off Tuesday, Wednesday, you can drop them off whatever days you feel like it, without us having to take the kid and have curriculums, and it's plain and simple. It's kind of black and white. I'm sorry if I'm just...
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
So how are you related to the applicant? Are you a business partner or?
No, sir. I'm an actual cook by heart, but this is my girlfriend.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
We need to try to keep the kids down a little bit because I'm actually having a little bit of difficulty hearing, so please.
That's fine.
Please.
That's fine. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, you're good, but are there any additional questions from board members?
Yeah, what's the age group, age range?
She's trying to stay away from the infant because we feel like that's just more. So she's going to be looking from 3 to 13. In North Carolina, 13-year-olds can be considered left at home. You can look it up. They're considered to be almost adults, so they can be left at home. So we're going to do 3 from 13. And yeah, that about sums it up right there. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I noticed that you said that was paved, but I know it have rocks there right now. Would you all planning on paving the parking lot or something?
Well, the interest has been paved because due to actual North Carolina laws, you have to have that dip. So from about where the head of the truck is facing is fully paved to the road. So we would obviously fill in the gravel. And we were thinking about probably spraying the parking lot right after the gravel sets. We would gravel the whole driveway. You know what I'm saying? So we would gravel the whole right of way.
Rocks?
Yes, ma'am.
You're talking rocks, okay.
Yes, ma'am. But what we would do is to leave, because I know it's adjoining the property, but to leave access, parking spaces, what is already permitted on the left-hand side of the building. Parking spaces, they already have handicap and it's already permitted. We would use the right side of the driveway and leave the driveway open so that way the flow of traffic is steady, and it's not a place where you can drop your kid off and sit in the parking lot. You can only drop your kid off, and then as soon as you drop them off, you have to leave. It'll be covered partition, so the parents can only get to a certain space upon dropping the kids off, and then they're not allowed past that partition. So the driveway aspect of it should be a revolving door almost. You come, you bring your kid, you drop your kid off, and then you leave. So I thought of that, having, the amount of access, leadway and all that, it obviously rings. But the way we are instilling it is drop your kid off, they receive their 4-hour service, you come pick them up, and then that would be probably the end to sum it up.
So the way the parking spaces are aligned, they're more or less diagonal back out to the road. Is there going to be
No.
enough space for a person to turn around to where they're always going to be going out onto the highway with the front end of the car as opposed to backing out?
Yes, sir. But the owner gave us the opportunity to, we wouldn't widen it. We would probably use like whatever the owner says we could on his property to make it substantial enough to where you can probably back out and have a car and a half length. So that way it's, you know, if somebody pulls this way, somebody pulls that way, you know, if they have only one car length of space, I could see that being a hassle with somebody who's like, you know, dyslexic and can't. But if we widen it up, which it's pretty widened, I mean, where he did the cement, I don't know if you have a recent picture, it would look way better. But where he did the cement going into the infrastructure, it's pretty decent size. So that small road that you see that fits one car, it can be widened without having any damage. And he's been helpful so much. So it's like he's willing to like compensate and make sure that it's actual workable space. Because at this moment, I mean, it's just bricks, you know, I mean.
So there will be space to be able to back around and go out forward?
Yes, sir, there will be
There won't-
space.
I guess
And I
a
think
little
if he's
bit of
leaving
concern.
that, I think he's leaving that up to us to do the gravel, but I think he is doing the gravel. I mean, this guy he's put another bathroom in, he did the incline and off the road onto the property. Yeah, so, I mean, it just, whatever it takes to actually open up, we are willing, and he's willing to subsequently do.
Yeah, sure. I think a little bit of concern, though, is we need to make sure that everything is safe. We'd sure hate to give an application approval when a vehicle might have to back out onto Country Club Road. So that's why I'm asking the question, because I don't.
Well, I mean, if you go back to the photo,
Yeah, the
because
site plan, it's been reviewed and been approved.
And everybody's happy?
They've got plenty of room to get in.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
good, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
and if
you.
you go back to that photo, because I see the site plan, like you can see it's the photo. It doesn't speak in volume almost, you know, just the angle of it. Because if you look at it from the road, you can actually see the parking spots on the side. There's about 5 on the side of the building. You know, and-
Totally agree.
Yes, sir. So, I mean, I believe, honestly, Nick Fernack, we did a Nick Fernack. You know, first we needed another bathroom, then we needed this, then we needed that, now we need the Nick Fernack we can handle, but then it's just like setting it in stone, you know, actually doing something that involves community. I mean, we're going to have the New Bern Conference come up. We already had to do a setback. We had the mayor coming out to do a ribbon opening. I paid for that for Mother's Day, you know, and then have to call them and then do another thing over and over again. Like, we understand, like, it's got to be finalized in certain ways, but, you know, I feel like it's for the best. And even if now, we'll be back next month, you know, so.
Hey, sounds great.
Yes, sir, at the end of the day.
Do we have any additional questions?
Well, I noticed that there's a residence sitting right behind where you're
Yes.
talking about. Are you going to be, are they going to be using the same driveways you got, or you guys got one way in and one way out?
They would subsequently use the same driveway. And that was my biggest concern until actually speaking to the owner of the property and seeing how, you know, we could say we quit today, you know, and we stop doing all this right now. He already paved that, you know what I'm saying? He's went the whole way. I believe he paved up to his property line if needed to show, you know? But it is the same usage. So, and I don't know who has the right of way. I don't know who owns the driveway. Because I came from New York and I came from subdivided land. And we had the usage passage. Our neighbor had the usage passage we signed at the end of the year. And we kept going. And we had the actual driveway. He was landlocked in. So I don't know how that is. I don't know, house behind them is landlocked in and they're using the driveway, or if they own the whole passage right up the driveway. Because if they're landlocked in, then, because he used to sign an easement, though our neighbor, when he was landlocked in, he used to sign an easement. He would snowplow me out in favor of, you know, of me writing the easement. So I don't know if they're landlocked in I don't know who owns the driveway from the looks of the site plan. He owns.
Chairman Tabak, I would like to point out
Seth, I
that,
think, might be able to answer that
if
for
you
us.
refer to the site plan, that the property is subject to a 20-foot ingress egress easement that leads from Country Club Road to the subject property in the rear.
Yeah, so I'm assuming the easement is jointly owned by the current property owner who comes in and out of the, or I guess leasee maybe, that owns the back property and the front property. So there would be traffic, but I guess the city staff has thought that there wouldn't be enough traffic to affect. That's my understanding, I guess, Seth?
Yes, sir, that's the idea. And with the, same as the thought with the previous special use permit that was issued 2 years ago.
Good. Yeah, so that they've done their research and,
And we can only take up to 20 kids.
yeah,
We can only take 20 kids on a rotating schedule, but it's up to 4-hour intervals. So we don't plan on having a busload of cars there and people outside, and it's just you drop your kid off, you go, because parents are typically won't be like allowed. I don't know if you've ever been to a drop-off daycare, but you can't even, when I drop my son off, I drop him off here and they open the gate, and I never, they just go right in. So it wouldn't be anything where it's an actual service or anything like that where there are actual cars parked in there 24/7 and
Sounds
consuming
great.
the whole parking lot, sir.
yeah,
So, no,
we're good. Any additional questions? Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So are there any additional folks that would like to come forward and speak in favor of the project? We got one that I guess is going to speak against the project, going to jump up there real quick. But so yeah, if we don't have any more to speak in favor, come ahead forward, please, one at a time. Seth, go ahead. And just please state your name and residence.
I am Lois Jameson. I am the owner of the property in the rear of the building.
Okay, good.
At 2105. I'm 2107 Country Club Road. And I'm thrilled that I finally found out what is being opened there as an educational building. Had no knowledge of what was going on there until I got a letter which had the wrong date on it, said Tuesday the 26th instead of Monday the 26th.
We apologize for
So
that.
we got that fixed. And then on Saturday, my daughter called me. She was upset because we had a yard full of men with tractors and pickup trucks. So I went over to find out what was going on, and they assumed that all of the property went with the front building. And I assured them that it did not. I showed them the property line and showed them my papers for the driveway. Well, they had to call their boss, and he came, and it was CNS Concrete. They had rocks and stuff everywhere. They poured the drop-off from the curving from the from Country Club Road coming down into the driveway. Nobody asked me anything. Nobody called me to see what was the easements or who owned the driveway. When the church was there several years ago, we had no problems. Pastor Roberts, who owned that property at that time, his lawyer and I got together and we worked out the paperwork. We agreed that they would park right beside the building on Sunday mornings, so everybody would have an in and an out going. That worked out fine. When the lady that was going to open the art gallery there came over, she came to the door, told me what she was going to had intended to open there, but she never opened. Then the man that had the draft in place there, he was only there for a moment, and he was gone. Well, when this came up, we had no knowledge of what was being opened there, but I resented the fact that these men came on my property and cut up my yard to the point that CNS Concrete, the owner, told me he would bring dirt and fix my yard. That driveway is not large enough. When you come down in there, you will have to turn around somewhere. I'm not against, nor am I for. My concern is, how are people going to bring children, now that I know what it is, based on what he says, and how they gonna bring them in and drop them off without turning around in my yard? And the honest reason I say that, because when it rains back there, the water comes down. Does not stay up here. When it rains enough, the water flows down into the back of the yard back there. So it's soft. So if you're turning around there all the time, what's gonna happen to my property? That's my concern. Education is fine, but according to him, it's not going to be education. It's just going to be a drop-off of children, parents bringing their children early in the morning to drop them off, on their way to work, or in the afternoons to drop them off, or wherever they're going, they're going to be in a hurry. So if I'm coming in to drop my child off, where's that other car going to turn around? And I don't want it to be in my yard, because nobody's going to fix my property.
So on your property line, how identifiable is it?
It's very identifiable. If they had asked where was that property line at, the stakes are right there. You can see them.
Okay.
That building is 100 feet from my front door, well, from the property line.
So the back
if
of
you
it.
got a picture of it, I can show you where the property line is on the side of the
Yes,
ditch.
ma'am, we get the aerial photo put up. There you go.
They're gonna have to turn around somewhere. There's nowhere in the world 2 cars can get into that driveway at the same time, one coming in and one trying to go out. Plus, you got all of that traffic on Country Club Road. And if you've been down Country Club Road in the mornings and the afternoon, you know what it's like
Yes, ma'am.
trying to turn anywhere or get on Country Club Road.
So it sounds like the big concern is that a person would go to the end of their property, a person was going to drop off to the education facility and then come across the property line and turn around in what appears to be the biggest open space, which is your front yard.
Absolutely.
Understand, looking at the photo.
And they won't know. People dropping off, their clients will have no way of knowing, nor will they care, and that's not being. But, you know, if you're in a hurry, you got to get to work, you dropped off your child, all you want to do is turn around and get out the yard in the biggest space you can find.
Understand.
And I appreciate them wanting to have a business. I appreciate them wanting to have an educational spot. But from what they said, they won't be teaching anything, they'll be babysitting. And that's fine, I have no problem with that. But on the other hand, I still don't want my property damaged to the point that they can't fix it, and I can't afford to fix it.
Seth, is there
Mr. Chairman,
anything?
one option the board would have is to add a condition to the permit, to add some mechanism on the property that would better identify the property line or restrict cars coming in from entering her property. We turn in the park in the parking space back in and back out as intended.
So, and is that something that we can add as a condition too? And
Yes,
it
sir.
would be at the applicant's expense?
But if you look
The
at
applicant or
that
the property
driveway,
owner?
excuse
Applicant or
me,
the
gentlemen, if you look at that driveway, 2 cars can't get out or come in, that one car can't come in and one go out at the same time. It's impossible.
So on the survey map, the way these parking spaces are aligned, I'm assuming that, when I scale it out, I can understand. So it's going to be difficult for a car to travel behind where those parking
Absolutely.
spaces are? Is that something, Seth, that y'all have looked at on the review?
Yes, sir. And there was a recommendation or a requirement from Public Works to widen the apron and pave it.
So the apron on Country Club,
Yes, sir.
got you. And that's what's been in process?
Sir,
And that's what's in process currently to have that part paved?
that was already paved.
Okay.
and the rock was added today, or finished today.
Okay.
I don't know whether you calling that apron what's already been paid there. Is that what you call an apron?
The ingress egress aspect right off the road.
It's not wide enough for two cars because there was a truck parked there Saturday when I was over there, and he literally had to move for me to get out of there. CNS Concrete, they had a truck parked on one side, and he had to move for me to get out.
Ms. Jameson, is it safe to assume that you occupy the property?
No, my daughter occupies the
Okay,
property.
all right. So it's occupied
It is
by a
occupied.
regular resident? Thank you.
How many trips a day do you think y'all use coming in and out of the driveway, just out of curiosity? You know,
I
10,
don't know,
15?
because when the grandkids are here, we make a lot of trips.
So I think a lot of times the city might use 10 trips per house, and so I was just curious if that's common for y'all also.
Do you have grandchildren?
No grandchildren.
Well, if you've had children and they're active, you know how many times a day sometimes.
It could be
might
20,
have to
could be
go out.
25, right? Understand. Just trying to put it all in perspective so we all have a good idea of, you know, how to proceed, and, you know, if there's a condition added, it's done with the right knowledge. Are there any additional questions?
Yeah. No, I went up there and looked at the property, and like she said, told her possible two cars to come past. But what I noticed though, is they got some rocks up there, like they're trying to make it bigger than what it is.
And they're taking up part of the yard space,
Yeah.
making it bigger.
Yeah,
And nobody asked me where I wanted the rocks. They did what they wanted to do, and I was just concerned, how do you get to do all of this before it's been approved? That you can do this? How do you come on a property that you're going to use to open a business or anything, and you just come over and you start making changes without consulting anybody? I own that property, not the city of New Bern, not Craven County. I own that dirt over there.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just think it is so unfair to me or anybody else that owns a piece of property. I can come down here and get a use permit, and then I can just go and start fixing anything that I want to on the property. Nobody came back there and knocked on the door, said we're gonna open ABC here, and this is what we're going to do. How do we work out this driveway? But they knew that there were two buildings there using one driveway.
Mr. Chair, just so the record is clear, I don't know if Ms. Jameson's position is that she owns the portion of the driveway located on the parcel that's illuminated in blue. If we may need to clarify what she's talking about when she says, I own the dirt.
Yes, so,
I own the dirt behind the driveway that the driveway leads to, and I have a document that says part of that driveway gives me the right to be there and use that driveway because it could not be landlocked. The man that owned that property that sold it to the church did not know that until we went down and bought a new trailer to put that there. And they would not allow us to cross the lane. So we had to go to a lawyer with Mr. Roberts to get it straight.
so is the easement recorded at the
Yes,
courthouse,
it
I
is.
assume?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
is that something we need to address
The
and look
easement
at?
is recorded. Ma'am, did some of the rock that they purchased, was that put on your property?
Excuse me?
Did some of the new rock extend onto your property?
I will be honest with you, I don't know, because they had 2 piles on this side and 2 piles on that side. When I came back, it was spread out everywhere.
That could certainly be a condition as well, that any, property line identified and any rock that's been spilled over be removed and the yard repaired.
Ms. Jameson, did you state that there has been a proposed remedy to this matter for you as far as damages are concerned? Did they propose that they would make right with you?
I'm talking about all the way up in my yard where we park
Yes, ma'am.
with the deck. They cut up the yard, that
Right.
thing that has the rollers on it where you
Yes,
spread it. They drove that back there and was turning around. So And you know how much rain we had, so you know what it did to the yard.
Yep.
So the guy from CNS Concrete, he told me that he had some dirt at his lot. But as of today, he hadn't done anything.
So is it possible as an option, in addition to a condition, can we delay here the decision till another meeting? Or I'm asking what our options are, whether we have to add a condition potentially, or can we delay till the remedy is worked out?
To the question, do you have to make a decision today? The answer to that is no. You can continue this hearing for cause.
Okay?
Okay. As to any remedies that Ms. Jamison might have, she can certainly explore those, but I don't think it's in the purview of this body to order a particular remedy on her behalf.
So from a condition standpoint, that's more difficult?
A condition must be reasonable, and it must be associated with one of the criteria that you have to investigate. So if you hear after the conclusion of all the evidence presented today, or whenever the hearing concludes, that for health and safety purposes, it is necessary for the applicant or the property owner to install signage to indicate, do not drive past this point, or to put some additional screening in to differentiate the property lines, those types of measures on the property of the applicant or the applicant's property owner would be appropriate. Ordering any type of action on Ms. Jamison's property goes a little bit beyond what I think is the purview of this body.
So as a condition, they would be appropriate, signage or buffer?
Yes, sir. Those types of reasonable measures associated with some finding that you make today could be appropriate.
And/or it could be carried on to another discussion. We can continue the meeting prior to making any votes. That's another option available.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, just trying to go through all the options that we've got available. Is there anything else to add that we can hear and talk about? We know our options now, what we can do in reference to your
But I'm
concerns.
not sure I'm clear on what your options are. I know your options are to give them a permit to open a business there, and that's fine. But my position is, what are your options for the people that it's going to affect? I thought that was the purpose of having this meeting, to see who it was going to affect and how it was going to affect us, and et
Most
cetera.
definitely.
So in other words, he can just open the business regardless of what it's going to do to my property.
That's not true.
No, I'm asking a question
yeah.
because I'm not clear.
Yeah, most definitely on the first part, probably not true on the second. So we could, as a group, offer to approve the application with no conditions. We could, as a second option, offer to approve the application with conditions. And those conditions might be to remedies that, from what we hear, signage, buffers on their property. But I think what we've heard from the city attorneys, we don't have the right to make any conditions on the permit for your property. However, that's why I asked the question about the continue. So the group could decide to continue without a vote until the next meeting based on what we've heard. And that would basically force the applicant to do something that would be on your property to fix or remedy the situation, I'm assuming. Now, maybe I'm...
It would give the applicant an opportunity between now and the next meeting to do whatever is necessary to provide you all with information to your satisfaction that this property as presented can be executed in a safe manner that would not materially damage adjoining property values. So whether that is working out some type of agreement with Ms. Jamison or a contractor, whomever, that would be entirely up to the applicant to do or not do.
And if we do continue in those words, that would give a month till the next meeting, and then we could hear again and find out if there was anything remedied and then a vote could be done, because safety is a big concern, and if there's going to be children there, that's not good for you either, to drive in and out and have to be worried about somebody running behind a car, or if there's a challenge and you have grandkids in the yard, they definitely don't need to be able to drive into your yard to turn around either. That's just not being a good neighbor, or fair, however a person wants to look at it. So we're trying to do what's best in accordance with the city guidelines to remedy the situation, if that's the right way to and please correct me if I've stated any of that incorrectly.
I think the position that I'm hearing you say, Mr. Chair, is you are attempting to gather information that you can reflect upon to determine whether this application meets all the criteria of the ordinance. Specifically, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted. I think that's the conversation that we're having. And if you need to gather more information from the applicant or reflect upon it for some time, you certainly can entertain a motion to that effect.
So would we need to go through the 6 categories to get to that point, or do we just, if somebody offered a motion to continue, do we stop at that point?
Well, you certainly can hear any other individuals who are here that want to offer information tonight. If you are satisfied that there's no more information that you need to hear tonight, but you want to reflect, you can do that as well. I think that there have been at least one other person who made the effort to come here tonight to speak to you all. So you may want to entertain that person's comments and then reflect about what you want to do after you hear the people who are here.
Sounds great.
Madam Attorney, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
To understand better from the safety aspect, may I ask a question of Ms. Jameson in the sense of the signage proposal, what she would see to increase safety in that area?
Absolutely. Ms.
Okay.
Jameson's willing to answer.
Ms. Jameson, just to understand better this shared easement for egress, coming and going traffic, do you have a signage in mind to make more conspicuous that it's a shared driveway and no standing traffic allowed, those types of things?
Let me be real honest with you, and I don't want you to think I'm the Grinch from the neighborhood. No matter what you put out there, from my perspective, how I feel about it. When the cat's away, what do the mice do?
Thank you.
One thing, what I think Ms. Jameson is saying that she don't want it there because she already sees that it's gonna be a problem. You can put all the signage you say up that you want to put up and go through all the motions you want to try to stop what you think is gonna happen. She's saying in effect that she don't want it. Am I right, Ms. James? Am I correct? I mean, as it is now, you don't want it.
That's stiff, but I will honestly say, no matter what kind of sign you put up there, people are gonna do what's the most handy thing for them to do. Why do we go down one-way streets when there's a big sign that says one way only?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Thanks. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward and speak? And please state your name and address, and if you are the person who lives in that, please let us know also.
Yes, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Members of the Planning and Zoning Board. My name is Carol Williams. I live at 2906 Moore Avenue in Pembroke, and I am the president of the Pembroke Community Residents. I've heard both sides. I can empathize with both of them, but my main concern is the traffic. How many of you members have traveled down Country Club Road between the hours of 3 and 5? We're not even going to talk about 3 and 5. We're going to talk about in the mornings, during school time when those buses come. I have said at my corner, we have many outlets, but you know what? All those outlets lead right back to Country Club Road. That's the only outlet that we have. And I have seen funerals, school buses, accidents. Now I'm thinking, I don't begrudge anyone for trying to better themselves or become entrepreneurs, driving business. I don't do that, but I look at what it is going to entail with the people in that community. how it's gonna affect them. Even the rescue squad and the ambulance, how they're gonna get by when you got all this traffic coming from both ways. That's stopped. And if you've been to Perimeter, you know there's not a lot of side roads that you can go around the traffic and, you know, ride on the dirt. That's not it. That's my biggest concern. Are there any questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. You did. I was going to ask that anyway, so you did great. I appreciate that. Are there any questions? Yeah, well stated.
And I would be willing to help them locate another place. I just don't, it's just the traffic is too congested. I would be really willing, because there are other sites around New Bern that could better accommodate them for what they want. I do believe that. And I travel every day, 3 to 4 times a day, from my house at the Intermore Avenue all the way to Country Club.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
All right, you're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? So if there's no additional comments, we'll close the public part of the meeting. And is that?
Would you like to give the applicant an opportunity for any rebuttal?
Yeah, I think we should. Is the applicant or her spokesperson? So what we'd like is, you've heard the comments that are against, and instead of trying to start over again, please just try to address the concerns.
What they talked about.
Yeah, exactly. About what the apparent trespass issues, the signage, how a person might be able to remedy the situation, so we can, understand.
What's going on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Jamal Gray, 906 Meadow Street. Before we got the chance to sit down and even have this discussion, we were informed that we had to do certain things to the building to even get here and get approved. So as far as usage permits and all that, he has that. When it comes to the easement and the rocks and all that, that has nothing to do with the applicant. That's just the leasing owner trying to make sure that his building is accommodatable for the kids. So coming from the point of where there was damaged property, I don't feel as if the owner would not take responsibility over that. I mean, in 30 days, he's built a bathroom. He's made her road view frontage look 1,000 times better. He took down trees on our request. He did certain things that I feel, didn't have to happen, but it happened to get here. Okay, as far as rocks, I don't know about that. That's a simple thing as just, hey, take these, go back. If he went this far, I don't feel like the rock. I don't feel like that's a reason to postpone an actual answer. I mean, we can always wait. That doesn't matter. But I don't feel like that's a need. Where they say you can't turn around, and that one-way thing, I don't really believe that necessarily, because you can't see what you don't know. If it doesn't happen, there's no way you can put it in prosperity. Like I said, we are going to open up the driveway, because that was one thing. Parking space and being able to turn around was a majority concern, because the whole building is deemed safe. We've had the inspector come in. We've had everybody come in, from the front to the back to the ramp. We've had that addressed. We've even considered putting a railing on the ramp, just in case a handicap accessible kid has to come and enter. As far as they're saying ongoing traffic, we are not opening up a plaza. We are not opening up a gas station. We are not opening up a club. And the hour time, I understand at 6 o'clock you got buses coming through, but her original start time is 8 o'clock in the morning, close to 9. So we want to be opening up to about 8. That bus situation has no determination, not unless it's a short day and the kids get out a little early. I drove down Oak Country Road. It's not as if it's a right, a left, a right. It's one long road. Accidents happen every day. I don't believe that a parent would come and pick their kid up and let the kid run around the parking lot. You know what I'm saying? I've been to certain things. I take my son out. He plays soccer practice. My son, he goes, he runs soccer. When he gets changed, I walk him to the car, and we leave the YMCA. Do you see the YMCA? Do you see how the opening of that is? Where you just come and it's a road and the entrance of the Y is right there and you have to go like this. You know what I'm saying? That seems more of a threat than having an actual open space. And if you went there and you looked at it, he owns majority of the right side. So our parking lot isn't what you envision as just being close to the left of the building and that's it. We can maneuver to the right side. The whole right side. I mean, if you're looking at it towards the road, it'll be your right. If you're looking at it out from her property view to, it'll be the left. Where that star is at, he's deemed us all that space. He has no obligations not to give us the space. As far as the safety concerns go and deeming it safe, we've done everything to get to that point. It was deemed safe when we already, because what she did was, it was already zoned as a church to drop off childcare. They said we needed a special use permit, and we needed to follow certain steps in order to obtain and open it. We have those steps. Whether not granted or granted today, a town inspector can go over there, and everything is up to code. We already have that. When you start talking about safety, it just doesn't come down to safety. It comes down to usage of the parking lot. Let's be honest. That's the whole thing. The easement. Okay? And a signage of an easement doesn't give you full patches right. You got to understand that. It doesn't. It does not. I'm sorry. I don't know.
You might be out of line on that one.
I mean, legally.
It depends on what it says.
Legally, it's still his land. It's just the right of easement passage. But I feel like it goes a little before that because I understand she doesn't want any damages to her property. So if we work out assigning signs and please don't cross, I deem that obviously is necessary. But when it comes down to say, hey, there's going to be a blockage of cars, it's a drop-off vicinity. You have to leave. You cannot be on the premises. There will not be not a car idling in the parking lot for over 20 minutes if somebody doesn't come out there, because we're in 2023, you know?
Well, excuse me for interrupting, but that's one comment. Two comments there that bother me a little bit. If a car was idling for 20 minutes and was out where the easement is, that could block access to the property.
But
just hang on one second.
Yes, sir.
And we don't know what the easement says. I don't think. So that's a little concern of mine also. Now, as far as what her rights are to access, it may be exclusive right of ingress and egress, and then there might be a challenge. So I guess my big question would be, if the group decided to continue, what type of hardship might that put you in? Because I heard you also make a comment that that was okay if the meeting was continued for another time. Because that might be the best remedy for everything, that we see all the documents, that everybody's potentially is happy after the meeting. It's not necessarily what, I'm speaking on my own behalf now, not on the groups, but that may be an option that's best for everybody. May not be, but it's possible. So that's, the questions, I guess, from an answer standpoint that need to be addressed back to the board.
So what would be addressed if we postpone this and we come back with the specs and the site plans and everything else? What more would we have to give you other than what you have now? Just a clarification that it wouldn't be a busy. If we come back next month, and we postpone it, what more would you need to open it? Would you a signage, which could be put, which doesn't have any? The signage is leasing. That's the owner. And I'm pretty sure he'll do that. But what would we have to, do we have to do a wraparound driveway for you to feel okay about it next month?
Well, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So I think some of the testimony elicited today indicated that there have been some improvements to the property that were not depicted or reflected in the application. Specifically, I heard some mention, and maybe I misheard it, that perhaps the driveway apron has been enlarged in some way. It may be prudent for this group to have the benefit of photographs of the improvements that are in place. If you're looking at the site plan, it indicates, I think it's a 24, so there's a 20-foot access easement, but there's 24 feet, I guess, where the apron is located. I don't know if that's what was intended or if that's what it is now. So it may be that you want to get that information if you're concerned about how cars will get on and off of Old Cherry Point Road. Additionally, the gentleman here made some comments about the vacant, I guess it's depicted as green space to the south of the existing driveway. I don't know if this commission or this board has any appetite to see in real life in pictures, not aerial photographs, but in pictures, what that space looks like from a geospatial point of view, and reflect upon that information if you're thinking about moving forward with any conditions or denying the application in general. So there's some information that I think would be easily attainable that might answer some of the questions or fill in some of the gaps in the testimony that you've heard today.
And that would give us a reason to continue to where that evidence was made available to the group.
So when were you guys given this? Were you guys not given,
Hold on 1 second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I wasn't able to hear your question.
Yeah, so if the continuance was voted on, that is something that information could become available for the next meeting to make a better decision.
It certainly would give the applicant and or staff an opportunity to gather that information for you. And really, the burden rests on the applicant. So if the applicant was inclined to present some more robust evidence to you all, that would certainly give them an opportunity to do so.
I think the issue, if I may, one of the issues at least I have is, we have to vote on 6 different elements here to grant this application for a special use permit. And 2 of those is the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan. There are current improvements that are already going on that we've heard some testimony today has damaged adjoining property or potentially damaged adjoining property owners.
One of the stimulations. I didn't catch the whole thing. If we repeat the stimulations.
Yes, one of the factor or elements here is the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted. And so one of the issues that we've heard is the turnaround for the driveway use, whether or not that can be extended, the parking lot, and the potential safety hazards of the current site plan for the gravel drive, as well as how that impacts the adjoining property owner's right to use ingress-egress easement in that space. Another element is that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property. And we've heard some testimony today that there's been some improvements that has potentially damaged the adjoining property, which would affect the property value. There's also been some testimony about a potential turnaround issue that I think maybe some signage might be appropriate to help with some trespassing or other property damage. But those 2 elements here, based on the testimony that I've heard today, I have some real concerns about and would appreciate additional evidence, not only about the use right of the adjoining property, but what could be done in order to prevent trespassers and also prevent the damage to the adjoining property owner and her lot, as well as how can we minimize the safety risk. And I think as simple as expanding the gravel driveway, there seems to be some green space to do that, the potential. I think there's just some evidence that we have not heard yet that would help us grant this that I can say I don't think I've heard yet today.
So what would you need? Because we've done a lot of work to it, and I mean, like, you guys are, when you say you need certain things, I would think that you guys already know what has been improved on the building, but obviously you guys are left out of the blue. Because even before we already knew you needed these certain things. We have physically built that business and we've made it safe. Now, when it comes to the driveway, eliminate the driveway. That would be the only conversational piece. You're not talking about safety, you're just talking about destruction of property when it comes down to it, because her property has been destroyed relevantly. That's
I think it would benefit your case a little bit if we could just understand better.
Yeah.
If Seth, can you pull up the survey one more time, please? in the slide deck here, you've got this survey, and if you look closely, I'm not sure if you can see it down there, but it shows a very small sliver of an existing gravel driveway. Albeit you have a 20-foot access easement here. So if you could help us understand, you've taken that from an 8-foot driveway to a 20-foot driveway, I think that would really eliminate some safety concerns with vehicles that have children in them, especially, let's say you've got a real case on your hands here and there's a funeral, because there's a mortuary across the street, and St. Paul's down the road, which is a Catholic school, is in session that day, because we're out of session for school right now, I believe. So there's some elements here that I think are of concern for all. I speak on my behalf.
And I'll continue on a little bit on the same standpoint. The easement in concern is 20 feet. At the south and east of the property, there's some crepe myrtles that are either going to be planted or already planted, appear to be in the easement. And then if I scale out the size of those parking spaces, they're only about 10 to 15 feet in length. There's very few vehicles today that are shorter than 10 or 15 feet. And if somebody has a pickup and tries to park in that last parking space, there's a good chance it's going to be extended out into that easement by at least 5 or 10 feet. So now we have a crepe myrtle on one side and a vehicle out into the easement, and that could very well block ingress and egress to the property. And then from a safety standpoint, if it just happened that that vehicle was there when there was a medical emergency, how are we going to get somebody in and out, or how would the city get in and out of that back property? So the evidence is there, and I think me thinking through, and I'm not sure how everybody else is going to vote, but it might be to y'all's benefit if we as a group did vote for a continuance as opposed to go through those 6 criteria, because that would give an opportunity for photos to be taken and potentially even have a tape measure pulled and in that photo to where we could see where the 20 feet are, if that parking space at the back corner of the building could even hold a vehicle at the same time another vehicle could pass. My thoughts, and I'm trying to listen to what everybody has said and stated, but it sounds like it would be to y'all's detriment if there was a vote currently. So, I mean, I'm trying to answer the questions that you brought up. So the inside of the building isn't necessarily our concern. Yeah. The outside of the building is more the concern.
So what would you have us do?
Well,
so if I sat down and I said I talked to the owner and I paid, basically right over your left side, and I paid, but when you come in and say I paid all
I'm not
Hang on one
certain
second. Let me,
he can be heard on the recording, so if you could
sorry.
direct the speaker to speak into the microphone, please.
Yeah, so, try to get to.
So if I widen the Broadway and the driveway and I paved it or I added gravel and I made it wide enough to where you guys believe that a car can back up, turn around, and be sufficed upon exit and entering, then it'll be granted, okay?
Yeah, I'm not going to say yes or no or indifferent. I think the big key is that, laying down asphalt doesn't necessarily mean there's enough space between the edge of the property line and that building for ingress and egress on that 20-foot easement and have a vehicle parked down at the back of it. And that's the challenge. So if for any of us, I think, here to state that the installation of asphalt would solve the challenge, I don't think that we could do that. I think the big key is there probably needs to be a little bit of conversation between the adjoining owner, the city, and come up with what may remedy the situation. Because again, trespass issues are a challenge. And I don't know what's going to solve that potential trespass issue. Maybe it's putting bushes all the way across the back line and having a sign posted. And I'd hate to think that they'd have to put a gate up, to keep
I mean,
somebody from going in the
on-
property, but
running
I
the
mean,
gate is fine,
and we
I mean.
still don't know what the easement states. If
Yeah.
there's an exclusive right there, well, then maybe that whole 20 feet needs to be maintained and open at all times. And if that's the case, it's going to be hard to get more than 1 or 2 parking spaces full up at the top side. So there's a lot of, it's a dynamic situation. So it's hard for me or anybody else, I think, on the board to say, if you do this, we'll approve that.
That's what I'm saying. So what should I do? Because
I think the dialect part is where I'm going from, that there needs to be some conversation between the adjoining owner who came up and spoke with us earlier, the current owner of the property that y'all are going to lease from, you all, to where we could have some documentation, photographs with a tape to where we could see on the ground. I mean, when we put a scale on this, it's difficult and it's pretty easy to see that we have a challenge. And so I know I'm being evasive, but I really can't say exactly what the remedy or what the challenge and how it would be approved. I think it's a great idea, and I think your adjoining property owners even stated it's a great idea.
Yeah,
but
but-
she's concerned about the ingress and egress to her property and her safety.
as stated by her, though, she made it very clear that she doesn't want any businesses in that vicinity. Well, that's from what I took that. I mean, I stated.
There are really 3 issues, and just to kind of clarify, because what you're asking for is for us to tell you what needs to be done to get approval,
Yeah.
and the issue is, as the applicant, you all bear the burden to show us that all of these elements are met, meaning that there are no public health issues and no potential damage to adjoining property owners. Those are the 2 elements that I'm having some issues with. The 3 issues that we've heard about today are the trespassing on the potential for trespass on the adjoining property owner, the traffic on Country Club Drive getting in and out, as well as the easement access for the adjoining property owner, but also the safety of individuals on the property with cars coming in and out with the driveway. And so those are the 3 issues for me that I've identified sitting here today. And so I think it would be prudent for this board to continue this hearing and this determination for a month, so that you and the applicant can go and collect evidence to present to us to show us those 3 issues are not issues. We're not saying they are. We're saying they've been identified. We're now having concerns, and we need you all to show us that those 3 issues can be met given your current plan. And once that happens, then those issues are belayed for us.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure if we can come to a conclusion, then I'm pretty sure it can definitely be made, But I understand the safeties and concerns, but then, you hear people and you hear their intentions of saying, I
That's
don't
why we're
believe
here.
that this building is, you know what I'm saying? All right, so if I want to put a church up, so subsequently, I would have the same problems because, when you got road frontage like that, it needs to be used by the town. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I would definitely and hopefully I don't see us coming to a certain agreement about the situation because we're knowing to everybody else, there's,
I
the
think you
bottom
can
line
do it.
is not to have the business there at all or any form or shape or business.
Well, that is not, I will say, that's certainly not, and I'm pretty sure the board would probably say that's not what we're here for about whether or not your business. That's not, we're here to address the safety as well as the property for the adjoining owners. Those are the concerns for us. Once those can be belayed, I think, I don't foresee any issues, but that's not what this board is saying.
Okay.
And I think y'all can do it. I'm pretty
Oh, we're
positive
gonna do
about
it.
it.
Oh, yeah, yes,
I think the idea is a great idea of what y'all want to provide for a service, and I think there's a remedy available there, and we just need to get there. So,
And Mr. Chair-
and I think the stuff that you identified are great. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, I don't think it's an admonition from this body that the applicant and an adjoining property owner come to some type of agreement. I think, just so that the record is clear, that Mr. Ferguson was indicating that this, if you are inclined to continue the application, would give the applicant additional opportunity to collect evidence to present to you to address the concerns that have been articulated today.
Yes, ma'am.
That's fine.
Thank you.
That's fine. That's fine. We'll just get with he's a contractor, so we'll get with him and we'll try.
We still have to take a vote, and we still have to make a
Oh, yeah.
motion, so we're not even there
Oh,
yet.
that's totally fine.
But
Yeah.
yeah, if there's nothing else to add, we can probably close that part, and because that was a good rebuttal. We appreciate that.
No problem. I just appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Yeah, is there any additional comment? Are there any?
No,
Okay.
that's all I know is that, yeah, I know it's a good idea what he's trying to do. And, but he said the building up to par, but the whole issue is about the driveway and turn, that's what the whole issue is really is about. It's not a part that he having that. And then maybe if push come to shove, he might can relocate it somewhere else. If push come to shove, just throwing it out there.
Is there any additional discussion, or do we have a motion that we
I'm
can?
going to move to close the, do we need to move and go into the discussion of it, or can we go ahead and make a motion to continue?
If you want to close the public hearing, you can certainly do that.
All right, I want to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so motion carried to close the public hearing. Are there any motion?
I make a motion to continue.
I second that.
Well, just so we're clear, Ms. Sampson, was your motion to continue the application?
Yeah, just to continue it, so, get everybody, get all the information that needs and whatever need to be done.
Okay, so your motion is to continue this application to the next regular meeting of the Board of Adjustment to allow the applicant additional time to collect evidence to present to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And, sir, were you
Yes,
seconding
second.
that motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Do you need to reread, or are we good?
Does everybody understand the motion on the floor? I'm seeing heads shake yes. Very good. You can
Okay,
call for a vote,
everybody,
Mr. Chair.
We're good. Okay, so do we need to do a roll call?
If you'd like, you can. It's not necessary, then.
So if not, I'm all in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned.